guys being the timekeepers over there. And we'll call it to order. So roll call, my dear.
Anthony?
Here.
Joe?
Here.
Mark? Denise?
Here.
Harry? Tim?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Jeff? Gina?
Here.
And Jennifer. I'm here. Is anybody excused? Did you know?
I heard from nobody.
Okay.
And you didn't hear from anybody either. In the last few weeks, I've had to call Jeff Shipp and remind him. But anyway, everybody got the notice and they were all asked to let us know. So we'll go from there. We do have a quorum. Do I have a motion to approve the book that we received? The
Encyclopedia.
I make a motion to approve the book from last week.
Okay.
I'll second.
We're not here, second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Just so, excuse me, Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
just so the board knows, we can leave these and they'll be reused. So if you don't have like a burning need to have this on your bookshelf at home, I would just encourage you to leave it so they can be reused for other meetings. But
You don't worry about the agenda, we won't reuse
That's-
the agenda.
oh, right,
Just
the-
and then
the
just say,
3-year plan.
This is 3-year plan.
great.
Read it
Unless
as
you're gonna
it
read it.
goes.
I do not, that is correct, thank you.
That's good to know.
Whoever,
Appreciate the call.
whoever wrote all this, my God. Okay.
I know. I'm having a hard time reading it. I feel bad before I write it all.
Yeah, I know. All right. Any public comments at this time? Opening the floor for the public. That's all, watch the microphone. Okay. Let us know who you are.
My name is Brian Erickson. I'm the Operations and Development Director with Tapestry Family Services. And just to give you an update for the month, I've enjoyed coming in and telling you how many people we've served and kind of giving you the imagery of it. So for the month of October, Tapestry Family Services and all of our programs served 953 people throughout Mendocino County. 761 of those were Medi-Cal clients, so that's 80% of all of our total clients are Medi-Cal. That's throughout the entire county. If you were to take that number for those history buffs, if you were to take each and every one of those people, you'd fill 7 Mayflowers. I thought that was pretty interesting. Or it would fill 12 Titanic lifeboats, full ones, not the ones that had like 12 people in them. Or if you were to line them up shoulder to shoulder, you would go the length of 4 football fields. So that's the volume of people that we're serving throughout the county. And that was for the month of October. And also I wanted to be able to share with everybody that we have, as I've been informing everybody, in the works of obtaining grants to continue our HEROES program. We have actually signed a contract with a funder for that program for 3 years.
Great.
It'll be starting here within the next month or so. So it'll be a continuation for 3 years of HEROES, and it's not federal funding, it's a private foundation, so we don't have to worry about any instability of what happened to us this last cycle that we were open. And also one of the great facets that's going to be included in that program is we're going to be implementing a mobile parent-child interactive therapy, or PCIT program, that can go to remote communities, because one of the biggest hurdles that they're having is coming into Ukiah, where there actually is an office space for that program. We'll be taking it to the community so that they can actually have that therapeutic aspect available to them. So very exciting things. Wanted to be able to share that with everybody. And thank you very much. Any questions?
what was the number you said, 953?
953 is the total number
Yeah.
for the month of October, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Great, good news.
shall go forward with our SUGT providers report out. So I've got Ford Street, Redwood Community Services, New Life, and Mendocino County in that order.
Good afternoon. I'm Jackie Williams from Ford Street. I've been waiting to say this line for about 6 years, I think. We've completed the URC expansion.
Yay.
And so the last step was really the staffing. So we now have 8 counselors. So we were able to add the additional outpatient treatment program. That was a part of our expansion. But probably the confusing part is we've also been able to literally add some more beds to our treatment facility. Most of the time we have a wait list for men. And we have now kind of alleviated that because the 18 beds we had set aside for withdrawal management, or what most of you probably know as detox, during the opioid overdose crisis, we were using all 18. This time last year, it had dropped in half. It had dropped to 9, but we kind of thought, well, we better wait and see, because who knows. It's now, we're using about 5 or 6 detox beds at a time. And so we literally have moved 6 of those beds into the men's dorm. There was space available to do that. So now we can serve up to 28 men in residential treatment, and then the 12 women in residential treatment, and that's the kind of residential treatment dorm, and still maintain or have those withdrawal management beds, the 12 set aside. So it was just interesting to watch how the withdrawal management needs have changed over time. Everyone on my staff has a different opinion on why this is happening. And if you want to know why it's happening, I'm going to punt to Janine, because I don't think we often really understand all the things at play. But again, I hope this puts us in a position where people in need and are wanting treatment are not going to be placed on a wait list. Or if you're on a wait list, it's just because we filled all the intake slots for that day, and we'll talk to you next day. So that's something we feel really good about, and it's so nice to have a couple new counselors to kind of come in the middle of all the uproar with all the things that need to be improved and changed and all that. So I have to say this has been a really nice last couple months, and I really appreciate Janine coming to the ribbon cutting and participating. It's been a long journey, and I saw the pictures in the handout, so your ribbon cutting is coming too. The other thing I'd like to say, because Ford Street's responsible for the food bank. Your local food bank in Ukiah serves over 4,000 people every month. Of those people, they were probably all benefiting from also a CalFresh or SNAP benefit. So those folks have had their benefits cut in half. People that were just relying on the CalFresh benefits and maybe not accessing the food bank, or people that are really not on our radar, but they're beginning to come to the food bank. So we have benefited from some additional support from the Community Foundation and NCO, but we're trying to buy as much as we can from the food banking network, and so far we've kind of kept up with it. But there have been days where 30 new people, which usually represent 30 families, are standing at the door and wanting services. So I think our food scarcity challenge, even though there's talk about this being, those benefits being reinstated, I don't know how soon that will be, and in the meantime, those folks need our help. Yeah.
Question. Do you have communications with like the Fort Bragg Food Bank, and so everybody's in the same loop?
Exactly.
So they know where to go to get more supplies, or who to go to
So
for that?
the person that really helps us all coordinate is Amanda at the Mendo Food Hub in Willits. Amanda controls one of the food networks, and then we're also, all of us individual food banks are also enrolled, as Amanda is, in Redwood Empire Food Bank. So we do not, that's the one thing about food banking, we do not compete with one another. And so it's important that we look at the data that Lily provides on the CalFresh enrollments. It gives us kind of a sense of what regions of the county, have the greatest need. And because, the county provides some funding for the food banks. I receive over $800 a month from social services. But that's about the only standard money that we get. Every other dollar we raise. So in times like this, it gets more and more challenging. Last year we hit a record and we produced 350 Thanksgiving dinner baskets for our families that cook. We've already have over 500 families sign up for that help this year. So this is
Is that just your food
just
bank?
at our food bank.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So pray for the food bank.
Yeah.
I am Kristen Bogner, Performance Quality Improvement Director for RCS. I want to talk to you a little bit about our SUDS programs. First, we have a SUDS residential program that's serving women and children. Our primary demographic is really perinatal women, but we do serve non-perinatal. Perinatal, if you're not aware, is during pregnancy and for up to 60 days after. And so that's the demographic that we really focus on in that program. It is in 15 beds, but 8 of those are for women, and then the other 7 are for their children. So they can come into our program with their children up to age 12. We also support a lot of reunification in that program, so even if their children are not placed with them, we are supporting the reunification through that process and their stay with us. We actually recently received some BCHIP funding that's allowing us to double capacity, so we're going to, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years, we will have double that and really serving up to 30 total beds in the community. That is located in Upper Lake. However, we are serving a significant number of Mendocino County women. I ran some numbers yesterday, and 1 in 4 of those beds is filled with the Mendocino County women. From everywhere to the coast, North County, here in Ukiah, we are serving a lot of women and seeing really, really good outcomes for them. While they're in that program, they're focusing not only on their substance use, but also on other factors, financial, legal, education, all of those goals to help support the whole person. Like I talked about, parenting and reunification is a big part of that as well. I do have, if I can share, some really wonderful quotes that we received from some of our clients there. One said, "I appreciated the fact that they empowered me and helped me to heal without completely pushing me out of my comfort zone," so really meeting women where they are and helping them achieve those incremental goals towards their sobriety. Another said, "Truly House has meant a place to get my sanity back and a fresh start." And that's really what it's about, is that fresh start and recognizing that all women can heal from that. We also had a recent client who graduated, and when she reunited with her family, with her children, her 8-year-old said, "Mom, how long has it been since you had one of those bad drinks?" And she said 101, and her kids just cheered loudly and celebrated her success in that. So it's a really beautiful program. One of my personal favorites that we have to offer in this community. It is, like I said, residential, so they do live there. Most people we see move towards graduation within about a 90-day time frame, and that's when they would then titrate down to outpatient services. Currently, we do have a license-approved outpatient service program here in Mendocino County. We are experiencing some significant staffing challenges, as Jackie said. I mean, congratulations that you were able to fill your staffing needs. We are not there yet. Actively working on that and hoping to be able to reinvigorate that program very soon. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
New Life? Anybody heard from New Life?
Yeah, they want to make it.
Mendocino County? No. Hi.
My name's Angie Lewis, and I'm the acting manager of SUDT outpatient treatment. Update, I mean, I think everybody kind of knows how it works. There's lots of ways to get into outpatient treatment. You can be self-referred, or you can be referred from the courts or public defender. And then generally you'll get an appointment for a screening assessment. And then we can determine whether you meet criteria to be at outpatient level, whether you need to be at detox residential, which sometimes we call Jackie's Place, and other facilities. We also pay attention to if you're in withdrawal and you need medical detox at the hospital. So we pay attention to that because we don't want the client to be unsafe. We also refer to New Life. We're strong believers of MAT, medically assisted treatment. So clients that are an outpatient, years ago it used to be that a lot of times people kind of frowned upon medically assisted treatment, but not in today's. Today's more about meeting the client where they're at, and if they need to be on MAT, we're totally okay with that, and they can come to our groups and still be on MAT. It's not going to affect their treatment here. There's 17 groups. We have some in the morning, some in the afternoon, some in the evening. We also have 3 locations here in Ukiah, Willits, and Fort Bragg. We have individual counseling, and we have the window program, perinatal. We have child care, so the moms that have children, that won't be a burden for them if they can't get to the groups and have their children, whether they're in school or not in school. We have child care that takes care of them while they're in groups and individuals. And then there's the court programs. We have behavioral health court, adult drug court, family dependency court. We have the mental health diversion program, and we have diversion here as well, which is alcohol and drug referred from the courts. I think that's about the gist of it. Any questions?
Do you have any programs for domestic violence?
We don't that are court approved, so usually they'll be referred to Santiago. We do have Red Road Group though for cultural appropriateness. We have one, we just have 2. But no, we usually refer them because what oftentimes is they need to do the 52-week, and we're not court approved to sign off on that. So even if there's individual counseling and it comes up in those, we refer them to Santiago or another therapist that's here. We don't just push it to the side and act like it's not happening. But we can't sign off on that here.
Does the county work with Project Sanctuary?
We do. Yeah, we have lots of different, with McCavan, Project Sanctuary, Ford Street, URC. I mean, we work, Hilltop. I mean, we kind of, HRC, it kind of depends, especially like Jackie was talking about wait lists. Sometimes the client's ready to go to residential, they know they need residential, they screen in at residential, and there's no beds available. So we kind of miss that opportunity, which we try our best, so we sit with them and we just call, get on. Because the facility needs to talk to the client. They can't just go by what we're saying and meet criteria. They need to screen again with them on the phone. So we'll stay on the phone with them as they call all around. So that's the biggest need, is because the wait list. Because then we have them meet with us for a while to try to at least keep them engaged. But if they're, detox symptoms or they're needing, we can't do that, and we'll lose them. So generally that moment is then when they're there at the appointment. So I wish there was more facilities.
I feel like we all have to coordinate with Project Sanctuary. Sometimes they just need to relocate somebody maybe out of their home county into another county for a short period of time. So I feel like this is an invisible network that works pretty good.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going on to the Mendocino County report.
All right, you guys have the director report in there if you have any questions on the director report or any of the data that's provided. And as I've said a couple different times, if there's other things you guys want to see or other stuff you'd like reported on, please let us know, because we're always happy to add additional information in here or provide additional data if that's something you guys would like to see differently. You guys will see at the back of the report, the last page of that report, you can see where the psychiatric health facility is really coming along. So so we are still, last I heard, fingers crossed, that it's still looking at May. So that's really exciting. We are, going to be having, and we haven't talked about it, having them come here, but this month, Russ Pad, who is the operator for the PUF, or who will be the operator for the PUF, is going to be attending the Measure B meeting. We had been asked by Measure B to have them come and talk a little bit about who they are, what they offer, how they started recruiting, do they prefer LVN versus LPTs, or do they hire both, what does their staffing look like? So they will be at the Measure B meeting on the 19th.
A week from today.
Yeah, to give some, just do some introductions and give some information to the Measure B committee. If that's something we would like to also consider of whether we could have them come here, I'm sure they would be willing. We would just have to schedule a time since they would be traveling from Breast Pad, Reading area or Red Bluff area. Big updates. Probably, the good news is we know that WIC has funding through December 31st, so our WIC program is funded through the 31st. We have not, it feels like the state plans for that funding to continue for our Women, Infant, Children program in our public health side of the house, and we'll be continuing to watch that. As a reminder, January 1st, if you guys remember SB 43, which expands LPS conservatorship, takes effect in January in Mendocino County. Actually, every county that hasn't gone in, which is most of them, will be rolling into the new LPS law requirements starting January 1st. So we'll be interested to see how that pans out and how that adds. We are probably getting on a regular basis a decent amount of referrals monthly for additional LPS conservatorships, and we continuously are screening those, and if people meet criteria, obviously they get put on conservatorship. Of course, it's up to whether the court agrees with us. And as I think we've talked about here, every 6 months an individual can contest their conservatorship. And once a year we have to go back and have them assessed and justify that they still meet criteria for grave disability to keep them on conservatorship. So I'm probably seeing 1 or 2 come in a week right now of additional people being looked at for conservatorship. As we know, that program, I think we're planning this year will cost us about $4.5 million because we have to provide for food, shelter, and clothing, and the housing cost when we put people in board and care, averages anywhere from $150 to $800 a day, and there's no funds for that from the state. That's straight county realignment dollars that we have to pay. Now, some of their Social Security can go into that, but if their Social Security is $1,000, it's not putting a lot into it. So then it's really on the county to cover the cost for that board and care and any medication and clothing, food, etc. that they may have that they can't afford to pay for on their own. So we're going to continue to watch how SB 43 rolls out in Mendocino County and how that impacts our budget going forward as we continue to see a rise in number of people needing conservatorship and a rise in placement costs. Almost every year, placements raise their costs. I don't think we've had a year that a placement hasn't increased the cost to place someone in their program. So we'll continue to watch those funds. We have a couple of grants we applied for. The most recent one is, I'm going to get it wrong, the California, Clean California? Okay. Clean California, which we've been working on. We just applied for it. We worked with DOT Caltrans to get some funds to be able to hire individuals to help clean up the creeks, for 2 specific areas in the creeks, get the garbage out and kind of beautify the area. So we'll see if we are granted that grant. And it allows for hiring people volunteering to help do that. So I don't remember what the due date on that. When we hear from that, would you remember that? We worked with Supervisor Mulherin on that to get that grant submitted. So more information to come on that, and that's all I have, Joe. Unless there's something else you guys.
I have a question. On the creeks and that, you're going to be using people that we have housed. And is that going to be all over the county, or is that
No,
just the
it's all-
Ukiah Valley?
It's all in the Ukiah County.
We have the same problem on the coast with the creeks.
I think think the idea is that it's a workforce development grant as well. And so I think the idea is to create a program that then can be duplicated across the county. And, some of our vendors that work locally, for instance, the folks that clean up the Great River Trail, they use people that, have court-appointed community service in order to do those cleanups. So people that work, sometimes people that were formerly unhoused or using services are now in fact cleaning up those same areas. So I think the idea is to continue to create more of those programs throughout the county.
Question, anything in there that's gonna protect the ones you take out there in case they run into, homeless shelters on the creeks? There's a lot of people, cause they live by a creek, there's quite a few that live on the creek.
So the hope is that, we're working to get people out of the creeks and.
They might get violent, cause you're gonna
Right.
move their home.
Yeah, and we have some plans in place to work with a couple agencies, and we do have, the core program that goes out with law enforcement. And so, we're working on that also with law enforcement.
Just looking out for their safety.
Yeah.
Just like the other places that I spoke about, where there should be surveillance cameras and there wasn't, and then it all happened, you know, so. I just want staff to be safe with what they do. And we should, as a board, make sure that when we get some new stuff that we step into those kinds of situations, safety should be part of that. It should always be part of your staff at mental health, behavioral health, substance abuse. All of those kind of counselings deal with people who are out of balance, and they can get violent or stalk you or whatever. You know, so we want to protect the counselors and the doctors and the ones that are going out into the public dealing with.
I think they've had a plan before with doing this, because this is something that's happened with a lot of coastal cleanup areas. We've had personal experience with this, and so what happens is they'll have, depending on the area, but usually law enforcement in the way of a sheriff coming out, and announcements are set up like ahead that there's going to be cleanup in the area to try and restore the watershed for one thing, but also to try and get the breakdownable items out of that area, so it just doesn't become part of the base soil level, and then unfortunately then it just breaks down into smaller and smaller microplastics, things like that. So they'll have that there. The sheriff will come out, walk before, and then the group can come in and clean up the area, and it goes pretty well for what we've had as experience with that.
Either way.
I just have a question. Every single meeting, I bring up things about homeless issues, and I'm always cut off and told that we don't deal with homeless issues at all. And I think we spend a tremendous amount of time on environmental cleanup for homeless encampments, and we can't talk about homeless issues. I just am curious as to where our priorities are. Just a comment on that.
Did you want me to answer that, Perry? I'm happy to say, we deal with homeless that are mentally ill and substance use, right? So we have an obligation, if someone meets our criteria for services, we still have to treat them. And part of our goal when we're treating is to try and find housing for those individuals. I won't say that we deal with all of homelessness, and that's not our number one focus as a program is homelessness. Obviously the core team is kind of doing a different thing, and we're really trying to delineate core as kind of a county team to make sure that we don't hit some of the behavioral health, HIPAA things that come over with that.
I think it was a rhetorical question.
But I just wanted to make sure I answered that we do, if you're a client that walks in and you're homeless, we're going to deal with all issues.
I just am saying that every single time that I bring up issues regarding homelessness, I'm cut off and told we don't deal with homeless people.
I'd like to note that it wasn't Janine that spoke about the main
No,
portion
I
of that.
just-
It
you
was
don't
brought
have
up by
to
other
defend
board
Janine.
members.
I just am simply asking that sometime, maybe we think about those priorities, and maybe, I think like we're dealing with encampments.
The only thing I can say is it, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead.
The only thing I can say about that is, does that fall into what are the guidelines of what we're supposed to be doing as a board? Because if it goes out, if it goes out of it, then,
I believe this is well within best practices.
Okay.
You can, I can show you in binders.
yes, I would actually appreciate that, please.
My understanding is we are focused on the mental illness, behavioral health, and substance abuse. The homelessness, and I think this is what Janine was saying, the understanding to me is the homelessness, secondary to those issues, is definitely dealt with. But if you're talking about the people that choose to be homeless or have had
I am not.
bad, let me finish, or have fallen into hard times with what's going on, there's probably more and more of that. But that is not under our purview alone, it's there's another group.
Aware.
Okay, so the homeless, we've just heard from, and I didn't see you walk in, but we just heard from people that have beds that are serving people that are homeless because they have substance problems. We do it all the time.
I've just
So-
been saying, when we bring up issues about homeless people,
But if it's just homeless people,
this is the only thing, just mentally ill homeless people. If this is, it's an observation, it's fine, it's just, I just wanted to direct it.
okay. All right.
I do have questions for Dr. Miller, and, I think, yes, Carrie, you've been directed multiple times that the COC is the agency or group of agencies that works on homeless programming, and obviously, all of us have clients that overlap, and so I think that's the difference, and also behavioral health has now become also health services, which manages public health, and of course, the environment, protecting the environment is part of that, so I think it changes what was in the report.
It's fine, I'd like to see what all the bullets are falling on the cover. It's just a comment I had.
So, Dr. Miller, I think one of the things that has come up for me around health services, and public health now being underneath you as well, is, I've had the opportunity to attend the chief's meeting of the fire service when I can. And in their minutes from their last meeting, they had commented that they've had a hard time getting law enforcement to go out with suicide calls. And so, now that you have public health employees that are in the room for those chiefs meetings, I don't know what it looks like for you as the director of both agencies to be able for them to communicate that behavioral health, component with you so that we can work towards improving that, because I understand that the chiefs meeting might not necessarily be a place where you would send, your crisis workers or whatnot, so.
They go
Okay.
to the law enforcement, they.
Right, so
the
this is the
crisis workers
fire-
haven't went to the fire one, but
Yeah.
they go, law enforcement, crisis teams do attend the law enforcement, monthly, meeting.
Yeah.
But we haven't done fire. The reality is we have a hard time getting law enforcement to go out on a suicidal call, right? There's a lot of concern about suicide by cop. And a lot of, if the individual is only a danger to themselves and not the community, they're not always, going to respond because of all the defund police, all of the negativity that has come on to law enforcement, and some court cases that have gone through that have, reasonable force versus unreasonable force, right? And so these, the laws are not working in the favor of our law enforcement. And therefore, they are having to relook at how they respond, which means there are times that they're not going to respond if it's not a safe issue for the community. And so, but what we can do is in that situation, and I can ask, I can work with crisis or mobile teams to go out to the fire chief's meeting I know they have one coming up.
It was just.
Yeah, it was one today, but I think we have another one coming up. I know, I have public health staff there today. Is they can call them mobile teams.
Okay.
And I think that is something that we, need to do a little bit better, outreach and education on, that we do have mobile teams. It always feels like we're, educating that we have them, and then, an incident happens and you realize, people don't realize that, there are mobile teams, and, that there is an alternative call besides law enforcement, and we could go out with fire. The mobile teams could go out with fire. So I'll work with getting that message out to them.
I think that would be really, really helpful, because they seemed, to feel a little bit helpless. The other thing that got brought up was, that it seemed like there was a reduction in overdoses for a period of, 3 to 5 weeks, just very recently, and now it seems to be on an increase again. So has your team noticed that, either in, checking in for services, or do we have any ideas what that might have been about?
I haven't seen it. We looked at our data recently, I'd have to pull it up, to see, but I haven't seen it, we haven't noticed the drastic change.
Okay. And then the other thing is, I noticed in your report that we went from we're usually right around 63 to 65 LPS conservatorships, and that we are 70. So
And-
is there
and
something,
counting.
is there something that's happening there? Is that related to the economy, or do we know, like, what's happening?
I think it's twofold. I think there's a lot of push, for, like hospitals and, jails and stuff to start referring people to look at whether care court or whether or not LPS and it is an option. We're getting, a lot more referrals. I think we have 70, but I think we probably have an additional 10 waiting for final assessment and determination, and obviously approval by the court. So we're continuing to see a lot through the jail. We go through cycles in the jail where we get a large amount referred at one time. But we're also starting to see, the psych hospitals do a lot more referrals than ever. So, and that's a change, and I don't know if that's part of the push. There's been a lot of push to refer for care court, but we're not getting the care court referrals, we're getting the LPS referrals. And so I know a lot of counties are looking at, do we look at care court before we move straight to LPS? Do we look at LPS and then try to create the care court as a step down? What do we do differently? And the counties across California are looking at that, but there's been a big push on the psych facilities to do care court referrals. Unfortunately, our referrals aren't coming in as care court, they're coming in as LPS referrals. And so then we're looking at that, can we do care court, can we do LPS? We've only had, since we started care court, one care court referral, but it only came out of the prison system. So we're not seeing the care court referrals we thought we might see here. I would just add one thing, and I know your statement was a little rhetorical, but I wanted to add,
Yeah.
one of the things about
It's a driver.
the Clean Up California for us is that if we're able to bring programs in that allow for volunteer hours or some stipends, we all know that Medi-Cal is moving to, hours where people will have to meet their hours. These are the programs that can help those individuals meet their hours, because there's a lot of clients we have that are not gonna be able to work a 9-to-5 job. But if we are able to look at ways like Clean Up California, that is a way that someone could possibly get their hours to meet their Medi-Cal requirement, keep their Medi-Cal, and actually maybe feel good about what they're doing, right? And so that was also that motivator for us on why it's good. Not only does it not only help the community to clean up our creeks, but it gives something back for our clients to potentially participate in, get some hours, maybe get some skills, get connected, and that was a big piece of that.
I just wanted to say, that was the first thing that I thought of when you mentioned, when I walked in the middle of it, and I heard that was the first thing I thought of, was for Medi-Cal and for the work requirement. But in regards to LPS, I believe, if you look at the trauma, and you look at 20% of our population has had significant trauma, and I don't even know, I think that's a very low number. And so I think that LPS, is going to continue as things get worse and Medi-Cal becomes more dicey, and our reimbursement levels become more dicey on LPS patients, then I think that we have to pay attention to the homeless population because BHSA mandates us to do something about it, and it can become a very expensive thing if we do not pay attention to it. So I like the idea of being able to have some kind of a cyclical relationship where people can have something meaningful to do to supplement them being in care, and, you know, I'm just asking that we look at priorities and that we look at maybe a holistic approach to things, because from a financial standpoint, they're gonna get more and more tight. And, you know, being preventative is far less expensive than having to take care of things. You know, it's just.
And I think it's important, because you brought up BHSA, I think, you know, we need to also remember, while we're in MHSA now and go into BHSA, we put a lot into housing already, and I don't know if you guys really realize how much, I think, what, 30%?
It is 30% in the new budget, yes, and we were already really close to that to begin with. I can go over that in
Is fabulous.
lurid detail if you wish.
So I just wanna make sure,
Criticizing.
since it was brought up, we have for several years put a lot of MHSA funding into housing individuals within our community. And so I don't want that to get lost, and I know that we were almost at 30%, and this year we are at 30%. And so just, you know, what it does change is a little bit of what we do for FSPs and some of those, but we've always had a good amount of our MHSA, now BHSA funds going towards housing, meeting people's housing needs.
I have a question,
Yes.
and I don't know if it's happened yet. You're supposed to be putting another board together for public health.
That's correct.
Has that happened, or is it in process? I'm not trying to put.
No, we have struggled to get a quorum. We all know this experience, so, we are fingers crossed, right, Cody, fingers crossed.
Right.
We will get a meeting in, December, but we've attempted, to get a couple meetings, and dates did not work for October or November.
Okay, so the reason I ask that is, at some point, because we're looking at all these different things that kind of cross over each other, and it's all under your purview now, would down the road it be something that would be helpful for VHAB and public health boards to get together and find out where those crossovers are, and see if that helps you in what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I think it's always good to do that. I know we've talked about, this board and Measure B having a meeting together to really, you know, even though one's financial and stuff, but I think there has been those conversations and we've never been able to pull that off. So I think there is a lot of crossover between, you know, the different, the two agencies in a sense. I mean, there's some things that only are public health, and some things that are only behavioral health, but there is a lot of intersect within them, and so, yeah.
All right, and anything more for Dr. Rowland?
I'd just like to make a comment. I do participate in the monthly continuing care housing meetings, and they just have their final report and their point in time study, and if you would like me to send you that data, they've been doing a wonderful job with building housing. And, you know, we also built the terrace on Gilby Street, Willow Terrace. And so I think there are many things that cross over. And one of those is some of us do participate in other meetings where we keep an eye on that and have input into it. And maybe we should have them come and do a report on exactly how they've done with the housing and how it's improved. And they have done a really good job.
It was actually on the radio Monday. I don't know how many of you stream KOZT, but Joe Gelsky reported that the point of time study had been done and that we actually were down a good percentage, and the amount of housing we had available was up more than what the house, so there's more housing available if people want it, it's just not being used. So,
It's being used, it's full.
Yes.
yeah, well, I'm just telling you that
It's,
was his report.
it's very full.
That was his report.
Yeah, I'm
on-
not sure
on
about
Monday
Joe, but
morning.
the housing is full.
So this is why I'm talking about homelessness all the time, and why I deal with these things, is because I do know that there's been a tremendous amount of work on homelessness. Where there has not been a tremendous amount of work is the reason we are having increases in LPS is because the mental health component of homelessness needs to continually be addressed along with, I mean, that just shows more of my point.
I don't know if it's homelessness as much as, because there's a lot of people we can serve that aren't homeless, and they need to be conserved, so, I mean, that's true.
Of course.
I mean, I think the providers are here, they all cross over with me on a daily basis. Usually it's, they stop wanting treatment, or they think they don't need their medications anymore, so they stop taking their medications. Sometimes they have a change in medication, they decompensate, so, they get very symptomatic. And when they go to the psych facility, they're unable to get them back to baseline quick enough that that recommendation comes. The other thing that we don't talk about is there's a lot of them that are young, right? People start having their first breaks, and you look at kids, right? You start, we're getting better today at recognizing some symptoms in the younger ages, but before really you wouldn't even consider schizophrenia before someone was 18. Right, now there's some thought that there are some symptoms we're able to look and see that there maybe was in the childhood things popping up that led to the schizophrenia. But, for men, we look at between 18 and 21 is when you're gonna have your first break, those psychotic symptoms are gonna come out. Parents don't recognize it as that, they think of it as drugs, college, break up with a girlfriend, something else happening, until it gets so bad that it's no other option, right? In women, it's like 23 to 27, right? So we see it in women at a later state. That doesn't mean it can't be earlier, right? But that's when we start looking at, when we see the symptoms. Most of the time when you sit down with someone, you start asking a parent, like, when did you start noticing things? They'll bring you all the way back, but they'll tell you, I thought it was A, I thought it was B. So some of what you're seeing are people that are now actually, their symptoms are coming out, or their symptoms are so severe that they're finally getting help, and they end up being some of the ones we can serve. It's not just the older generation, right? It's those people that are having their first breaks, or, I have people who, they get on medication, and then, they end up back in crisis, and you ask the family what happened, and they say, well, we thought they were doing good, so they no longer needed their medication. Well, no, it's a long-term thing. They're probably gonna need meds for the rest of their life. And it's hard. I don't know any family who raises their hand and says, I hope my child's mentally ill, right? So it's a whole struggle for the family, for the individual doesn't want to be mentally ill. And so there's a lot of reasons they stop taking their meds. There's a lot of things that it does to your body that people don't want to take their meds. So that is a big problem, right? There's a lot of side effects we don't talk about. And especially for young individuals, it really can have some things that impact them that they're not so happy to have impact them. And so I think what we see is that, usually it's those who stop taking their meds for a reason. Or, I think we're seeing a lot right now of substance abuse.
The majority of it seems to be around medication, and it seems to be about self-medication.
Well, not all of it. I can't say that that's true.
Not the majority, but I mean, there is a lot that has to do with kids, young people, older people, all people, stopping medication.
Yeah, stopping medications 100%, and there's a lot of reasons people stop. I mean, people think I'm better now, I no longer need it.
People even do that with antibiotics.
They do that with antibiotics, they do it with everything. But I don't think it's all drugs. I do think there is a portion of the drugs that play into it, but you have to look at that list. Mo made a point of, like, she looks at it normally 63 to 65 individuals every month. But that also means those individuals have been with me for many years. So they've never stabilized to be able to live independently, right? Some have, and we transition as many as we can home to move into independence, but some individuals will never be able to get off conservatorship. and that's not what we hope for anybody. We always hope they're going to stabilize, be able to come back to our community. We have a lot of wonderful step-down programs. You know, one of the things this community has, and a lot of people in other counties are always shocked with what we have. I know we aren't always shocked with what we have. We think we need more, and I'm not saying we don't. But when you talk about some of the programs we have that other counties wish they had, we do have great step-down programs within our communities where we're able to get people back in to the county and try to work with them, getting them back housed. Sometimes we get them back housed and then they decompensate because they don't have that 24/7 care and they end up going up. Some of them will have literally, I've been here almost about 18 years. Some of those people were on conservatorship when I started working for the county 18 years ago.
Exactly.
And they're gonna pass away on conservatorship. But that's not because of homelessness, that's because of the mental illness.
Because of mental illness.
Right,
And-
and they're never going, the meds get them to a baseline, but never a baseline where they're able to live independently on their own in the community.
I know somebody who's a perfect example, I mean, the poster child for this. She was conserved, she went back to housing, she had a subsidized apartment, and she had a family that was willing to help, and she was getting the injections for her, she was kind of schizophrenic, but she decided she doesn't wanna get those anymore. And so she made a deal with her family, they would give her money if she went and got her injections. And she went and got her injections for a while, and then she said, I don't care anymore, I'm fine. And so she got cut off financially, and she's completely decompensated back to where she was. So that's the worst part about behavioral health is that it's a cycle, and it keeps going round and round. And as much as any of us would want our loved ones or the people we care about to not be on that hamster wheel, it's the nature of the disease. And the homelessness and the substance abuse can be secondary to that, and it's the choices they make and the choices they're given. If they go into a hospital and they don't wanna take their meds, if they're over 21, they don't have to take their meds, but they're stuck in the hospital. So, I mean,
It's a hard cycle, and
It is.
it impacts everyone, you know, it impacts the families, you know, it impacts the clients.
I have one question. With LPS and increases in LPS, there is things like there's a program I didn't even realize we had it, Spread Your Wings. There's something, there are nonprofits coming into the area who are providing 24-hour care in your own home.
It's a combo that, yes, that could work for some people, but there are individuals that really require a lot of facility.
Right.
You know, and so the court decides the level of care. So for people, you know, what happens is, in case people don't know, usually we get either a court order to investigate an LPS or an LPS conservatorship. I know we've had some short conservatorship. Or usually the person will end up in a psychiatric health facility or psych hospital. That psychiatrist will make a recommendation based on a variety of different things. Maybe that person's been hospitalized 3 times this year, or they've seen that person over 4 years and really feel like they've never been able to get them really to baseline, and this is going to be continuous, you know, this decomping is going to continue. There's a lot of reasons, right? The psychiatrist will make an assessment and make a recommendation. They'll complete paperwork and make a recommendation to the public conservator's office that they feel the individual needs to be conserved. From there, if the court makes the recommendation, an expert witness, which is a licensed, you have to be a psychiatrist or a licensed psychologist with 5+ years in working with great disability, so public LPS conservatorship law. And that person does an assessment and determines, do they meet grave disability based on the legal criteria, do they not? Sometimes people get referred for LPS that really need to be conserved through the probate conservatorship, because we have different conservatorships, right? And sometimes you're really trying to determine what came first, the chicken or the egg. They have a traumatic brain injury. Are their symptoms TBI related, or are their symptoms mental health related? Is this a regional center client? Because you know what people don't realize, right? So everyone thinks, oh, we just send them. But when you get sent to a facility and it's the wrong diagnosis, and you're over medicated and you're in a locked facility, that's never going to help someone get to where they need to be. The goal is to get them rehabilitated and back into your communities, right? So you really are looking at what is that diagnosis. You're not, you just don't want to say, oh, just put everyone in a locked facility, right? Then you're never getting people out. And so from there, the court makes a ruling. Is this person we go to court, they have a public defender, they can request a jury trial or a court trial. Some do request jury trials, and they have a public defender that defends the county council, and us go to the court. We plead our case, the individual pleads their case, and the judge or the jury makes a decision on whether the person meets criteria or is continuing to meet criteria. There are times we have said, this person needs to stay on conservatorship, but they do that. The jury comes back and says this person no longer meets criteria. They have a plan. Even though sometimes the plans are so far-fetched, if they have a plan and a jury or a judge believes them and they get off, there's nothing they can do. And that happens. It's happened. We had a client many years ago who we fought tooth or nail, and we all said, within a day or two, we're going to get a call. That same night, I got a call from San Francisco. They ended up in San Francisco asking what in the world was wrong with us. Why did we let this person off? And we had to say it wasn't us, it was the court. So it's not, it doesn't always mean just because we agree you need to be conserved, doesn't mean you're going to get conserved. It doesn't mean you'll stay conserved. But it is a process.
It should be the last option.
It is supposed to be the last option.
And the first option would be prevention. And I just think maybe we could put on the agenda to talk about things like working with schools and working with parents and outreach about schizophrenia and psychosis and cycles of some of these diseases for kids, to put it in health classes so that people understand, because people who are going through it need to understand what they're going through. And the parents of those people need to understand what they're going to be in for probably the rest of their lives, because those children are going to outlive them. So there are levels, and it was beautiful the way you just went through the entire system, because each level of that has points of entry that we can make a difference. And I would like to maybe start looking at some of those things as like outreach programs and education programs where informed people can make better decisions so that we're not leading to people who are running out of control, because it is miserable spending your entire life on medication. That is not something that anyone likes to do. And it's not the nature of it, but it has to be that way. That is the nature of that beast. It's the only way to solve it.
I think education is always huge, and I don't think we do enough of it. We always talk about know the signs for suicide, and I'm always surprised by how much education I feel is out there, and people still don't know the signs for suicide, and it's really heartbreaking when a family member walks through and says, we didn't know, and yet they're saying all the things that were signs, right? That were clearly signs that this person was preparing, right, for a suicide attempt. So I don't think that there's ever enough education. I think there's always more education to do. I hope that, as science improves, they recently did a study on anxiety, and we're able to see that there's a chemical in the brain with those that have anxiety that is less than those that don't have anxiety. And I think that that's a place I hope someday we get to more of that genetics, chemical imbalances, because then we would actually be able to treat, right? One of the downfalls with mental health is it's an art, it's not a science, right? And if you ever work with, you work with psychiatrists, they're trying multiple drugs to see if it works. So that frustrates clients, right? They could be on 10 different drugs and they're still not working until they get finally the Clozaril, which is one of the hardest drugs to have to take. right? So we don't have a science. It's not like you have diabetes and here's the right drug for you. It's like, oh, you have depression. We'll try this one. We'll try this one. We'll try this one, right? That's why we call it. It's more of an art. It's not like, even though it might work for you, you may go through. And then we know that they're sisters drugs, right? Talk about antidepressants. They're sisters drugs, and your body can create where it becomes so used to that drug it no longer works, right? And then they can't give you a sister drug because it does the same problem, right? You're also immune to that drug then. So my hope is that we get to a point where it's more of a science-based prescribing practice than kind of a, like, here's all the drugs and we'll try everything. And I think that's where we have to get something.
Absolutely.
I had one last thing I was gonna add if no one else had any other questions, just because Mo brought it up earlier. It's all your fault, love. It's all about your book. So, we have talked about trying to get away from printing so much, and I know some of you walked in late, and there are things we can't stop printing. Like I talked about, you missed a little bit, Perry, but we are mandated by the state to have like 500 brochures. Seriously, it's crazy how many brochures we have to have, and we have to be able to do it in regular print, large print, Braille. We actually have a Braille machine. We're mandated. Spanish, regular, large print, Braille in Spanish, and then any other language that walks in, we have to be able to print it in that language and provide it to the person. But our lobbies have to have all of those, and there's probably about like 100 different brochures, and then we have to have it in all those things. So we'll probably not get away from printing anytime soon. But for this meeting, I think there's been a lot of conversations, especially since everyone was shocked with how thick this was. Is there a better way for us to do it so that the board, maybe we don't have to print out so much paper? We would always have to have a couple on the back for anybody who's stakeholders that are coming in to see the meeting, but we could limit that. One option, I think, is we always email it out. So I think there's two options. People, if they're comfortable bringing their own personal computers, or maybe since BHAB doesn't use a lot of their funds, you guys haven't used it, we look at some type of tablet device or Chromebook or something that we could bring in and log in. You guys could log in, and then that would allow you guys to access it more electronically. And the Board of Supervisors can, have an option to get on electronically with stuff. So those are just some options that I want to throw out there that we could reduce the cost and the waste of paper.
But we probably, that the cost of all the paper would offset immensely the tablets. And I think, because we can look at it at home and then have a tablet here when we need it. And I think that's, this one was pretty impressive.
Every time we do the MHSA plan or the DHSA plan, that's how thick it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it'll probably get thicker and thicker over
It will
the
be
year.
significantly thicker the next
Those
time.
are whole
I would love
things.
to have copies printed out, because those, I think, different than an agenda, those kinds of things, I wind up referring to, I don't know.
Yeah, we would always have copies in the back for the public regardless. So if someone could say, hey, can I get a copy of this, and we could print it. But as you guys probably know, by the end of the day, a lot of you leave your papers here. We're picking them up and just throwing them in and recycling. We recycle. We shred what has confidential stuff. We recycle what doesn't. But so, just some thoughts if anybody has, something to think about.
Rena Ford.
Indeed. I'm gonna grab one of my own copies here.
It's a good thing we have them.
It's easier to flip through one when you're standing up front than it is to go through your computer. So, as everyone may or may not know, the Mental Health Services Act is paid for by the millionaire tax in California. So the first $1 million that you make, you're not taxed for this particular tax, but once you do make $1 million, 1% of that comes towards us, and it is designed to fill in the gaps in our programs and our services. And as you know, this happened 20 years ago. And as time goes on, of course, that changes, and so we're moving from MHSA to BHSA. And what I'm bringing to you guys today is an update to the annual update of the 3-year plan.
And it exists this way because the regulations require that if we make substantial changes to our plan, we have to reopen it up for public comment, and then get board approval again, and then resubmit it all the way up to the state. So we have a few changes that are fairly substantial, and if anybody really wanted to follow along, they are going to be all in the appendices, and it's spelled out on page 6. We have a summary of all of our substantive changes, and those include Appendix B, C, D, E, and they are increasing clarity in outcome measures, so we're reporting some of our outcome measures. We also have additional budgetary appendix, which is to increase the transparency of how we do the budgets. Interestingly, they are very much the same, so each of the years we typically have them as the same. And we do have a significant change in this year, so the 25-26 expenditure for the CSS plan, which involves our wellness centers, as one of our wellness centers does need some renovation work, and so that is a significant change in the amount of funds we were intending to spend. And then we also have our PEI summaries, as well as some paperwork training is included in this copy. If you were to read through this copy, you would see that the first, let's see, is that 80 pages? Yeah, about, I think it's 87. Yeah, 87, 88 pages are exactly the same, except for a couple of bits as described in that page 6. That's where all of the new stuff occurs. So about page 100, sorry, 97, 94. This is where all of the fun new things are. And it does increase the length of our 3-year plan by 80 pages. And so, yeah, I am available to answer your questions if you have any about it, but we will, of course, be here again next month to do a public hearing, a public comment hearing. And this is, of course, procedural as we go through and march this forward up to board approval. And if you have questions about the graphs or the data, I am super excited to tell you all about it. I love data.
I'll ask you a question. I think, you know, one of the things that community often has questions about is how much money per client. And I think that Behavioral Health Recovery Services does a good job of breaking that out per client. And obviously our conserved clients are the most costly.
They tend to, yes.
Yeah, I wonder,
So-
what are our thoughts around, you know, like the cost per
Yeah, so,
contract and vacation?
yeah, in general, in MHSA at least, when we house somebody, a housing program for just the housing portion of it is approximately $10,000 per person. And that actually makes sense when you kind of step back and look at it. How much does it cost to rent an apartment? It's a very similar cost, actually. Once you move into more and more, for instance, our full-service partners tend to cost, because of all of the services, and it's many and numerous, depending on which agency, between about $6,000 to $14,000 per client. And then we have other programs that have very low cost per client, partly because they're funded or facilitated, I should say, with volunteers. So for instance, our cost per client for Action Network is pretty low, for instance. Though what they count as a service isn't necessarily the same as like stepping stones, is housing a person. So the services that they're providing is literally a roof over their head, whereas some of our other providers, the service they're providing is, here is this delightful pamphlet, can I help you dial the phone to reach who you need? Those are very different services, obviously. And it's part of, I think, the strength of MHSA that we can offer all of those. Now, as we're moving forward into BHSA, a lot of the prevention that we've offered before will be handled at the state level, and we're only just now beginning to receive direction on how the state is going to provide some of that 5% back down to county level. And I believe it's looking like it's going to be competitive proposal requests from public health departments specifically. So they're taking 5% of our prevention dollars and moving it to the public health side at the state level. So it's going to come through CDPH.
We did well this year.
And if, for anyone who's concerned about like the first part, that is very similar to the last time we saw this, when we started bringing this through. I believe it was in March.
Oh, okay.
It is procedural.
Yeah, I know, I remember this from last year.
I make a motion to open public comment.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Martin?
I'll second.
Okay. So I had 2 seconds. I had Martin and Tim.
Well, it's really strong.
Okay,
Yes, we can.
so is there any more discussion about this? And I
That's a
think
really good job.
I'd really like to do a verbal poll for this one, because it is legally done. So, Jennifer, can you call a roll on this one, please?
Yeah, Anthony,
Yes.
yes. Joe,
Yes?
Denise,
Yes.
Harry,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Gina,
Yes.
and yes for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so on we go. We need to approve the minutes from our last meeting in October. Does anybody want to move for that, or were there any things that were found on it that needed to be amended?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay,
I second it.
maybe? Any other comments, thoughts? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any against or more here? Actually, we
Oh,
have.
here.
I wasn't here either.
Okay.
Didn't read it.
Well, we can read over it.
Yep.
Did you read it?
Mm-hmm. I did too.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion passes. I don't know, when they're younger than me, they're all kids. There you go. All right. Okay. So, committee reports. I will start with, in your packet, there was a meeting schedule that is tentative at the moment. We tend to meet on the same day as meant to be. This month we didn't because,
Okay, we burn low. This is fun.
well, and Bernie's part of that. Sorry.
Is it in the minutes? Wait.
It's right
So,
before
this month we separated it so that they could be
Oh,
at
yeah.
this meeting. So, but that, and we've been having our meetings here. And I had suggested that so that we didn't spend money on renting the training center. And if that still works, I would like to keep that. Cause then we can buy tablets. Anyway, we're also, gonna be going to Covelo in the spring and to Mendocino in the summer. And, we've changed the where we are in Mendocino because of the problem we had this last year. So we talked to another group. So, does anybody see any conflict with this to start with?
next time around, once we do finalize this, can we make sure everybody confirms that we received it? That way we all show up at the same time. Last time around,
There
something
was
got
some
switched around and I was
confusion.
like,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, there was, we went through some changes this last year, and, both, you know, in the office and also within the group, so I think we can do that, cause there was that confusion. So,
If we have scheduling conflicts with some of the dates, how should we communicate that?
if you've got, since we haven't adopted this yet,
Okay.
we normally have our meeting on the third Wednesday of the month. You know, and Measure B only meets quarterly at this point. They have changed that a few times in the life of that board. So if you do have a conflict, I think, letting your office know, is that still Rosanna is the, who? Okay, I think it's probably time to introduce
Yeah,
Dottie.
I was gonna say, when we got through, I was gonna make sure we got her introduced.
Okay, all right. So,
Okay.
yeah, so let the office know,
Okay.
and if you have to be excused, we can excuse you, or if it's, you know, that's, the other thing we're looking at is Covelo and Mendocino, having it be a split meeting, so that some of us will be in Covelo and some of us can be here. And that way, we still have our quorum, everybody goes, but for those of you that are still working and can't give up a whole day to go traveling, then you'll still be able to participate in the meetings. So, that works, and we'll do the same thing in, Mendocino, for those of you that don't wanna come over the hill and come and enjoy the Mendocino coast. So, all right, so let us know, if you have any conflicts with these, and then we will see if we can firm it up before the next meeting.
Thank you. I just quickly reviewed it and it doesn't seem, I think there's just one date that would conflict with general government. However, there's no formal understanding of whom the Board of Supervisors representatives will be until the chair appoints us. So it may not matter if it's on general government day, because whoever your supervisors are may not also be your general government supervisors. It is up to the chair, which will be Supervisor Marvell next year, to decide what happens with that, but I thought I would just
Can I
remind
put
everybody
my
that that it might not be the two of us that are appointed back to this board, it could be two other board members.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Oh. Just sharing how the
I
process
think
works.
continuity is good, and it's been nice having supervisors engaged with this board since you came to it. It has made a big difference, because then you guys actually know what's going on, and we know what you're thinking and need from us. So would everybody check their schedules and, so we can adopt this next meeting? Does that work for you? All right. The other thing is, we need to think about our officers, our nominations, and that will be next month also, right?
Yeah, I think it's next month.
Right. So if anybody is interested or wants to nominate somebody, oh my goodness. A wet person just came in. Hey, Mark.
Oh, goody was his brother.
Yeah.
So good.
All right. So, if anybody wants to nominate anybody or wants to put their hat in the ring, again, look
I think we were gonna do like a survey, and you can send it out to everyone, so you
Okay.
can nominate, and then we'll bring it back.
so we can deal with that next month also. All right. So there was that. And then, you said, we were talking about ResPad coming to Measure B. I think at some point in the next couple months, to have them come down here and talk with us too, as it gets closer to, I mean, if the switchgear comes in, maybe they should come down.
I hear, our delivery date was updated and we're in a better standing for the switchgear, though our generator is behind, but we can still but we can still open without the generator, so the last update I got, so. But, I heard the switchgear delivery had been moved up and we're looking better.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But I will just note, as Anchor will tell you, they were supposed to be open a year ago, I think. And so I'm gonna hope we don't have some of the similar things, but building right now is not easy. Opening facilities are getting delayed across the state. So.
I just, you know, we can't hold our breath. The fact that they moved it up is the right direction, but it hasn't, until it lands.
The switch guard moved up, the generator moved back, but I totally can come up with that way.
But I'd like to,
You have to work one with second.
I'd like, as we got closer, to have ResPad come and talk with us.
Yeah, we definitely can reach out to them. Once we know the board's confirmed dates, then we can reach out and ask them next year what date works for them.
So my other question is, I'm gonna be going to the Measure B meeting next Wednesday, because I'm your liaison to that committee. Is there anything that you would like me to take, anything that you have questions about, any kind of thoughts that you want me to take? I did request, they asked for things for the agenda, and I did request, how to get the word out about what we've been, what we've accomplished. That's been one of the things that I have tried to do in this capacity and get our board to hear different things. But there was another article in the Mendocino Beacon by Mark Scaramella, who everybody knows works for the ABA. And I don't know, I did not answer that article, because I did not know that it would be heard, whether I answered it or not. So I'm wondering, is there anything that you would like to see from Measure B or to take to Measure B to have them be aware of?
What was his question?
Scaramella?
Yeah.
He was saying that we were sitting on all this money and nothing was happening. Oh, we built a couple buildings, but oh well.
They did.
Yeah, it was, I'm glad to send it to you, and I have a link.
I love seeing Scaramella's articles, that'd be perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And you
I love
will
it.
see it too,
I
right?
love it when
No,
people
I
send
bet.
me his articles. That's wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, it was, yeah, it was, and what was interesting is, I don't usually read those things, I have the paper, but a friend of mine who lives here part of the time, she gets it in Cincinnati, and she sent me.
In Cincinnati?
In Cincinnati, she goes, Joe, what is this? I thought you built all this, so I went, where's this article?
So do you think that I recall that not only has this board had that conversation, but Measure B has also had that conversation. What do you think is, never mind, I'll watch the Measure B meeting, I suppose, and find out what are the ideas about how we clarify the record for not only what's happening here, but Measure B too, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's on, that is on the agenda, ResPad's on the agenda. Facilities will be given an update if Doug doesn't get called into jury duty, his jury duty that week. And I think the only other thing on the agenda is the Critter Reserve.
Yeah. I think, personally, I think what Measure B has accomplished has been amazing. It was a little rough at the start, because I started going to the meetings when the meetings started, just because I was interested. And, I think it's just really, once they got the wheels on the bus to all go the same direction, it was good. And we've accomplished a lot. And I know that the state is impressed with what we've done, so. my report. Thank you. Do you have anything, Mo?
I do not, thank you for asking.
And Jennifer?
No.
Okay. And Martin?
Nope,
No?
been pretty quiet.
Okay. Any, more comments from the board?
Donate, donate.
Yes. So, I'm gonna let you introduce Dottie.
Before we do that, I just wanna make sure, do you wanna bring back an item to talk about laptops, tablets? So that you two will bring it back, we'll get it on the agenda,
Yes.
you guys would have to approve it.
Does anybody have a problem with that? Does somebody wanna make a motion that we put that on the next agenda, so?
I can do it.
We save money, we all just buy our own personal one.
That's okay.
As long as everyone has one, it's comfortable.
I
Yeah.
don't have one.
Yeah.
I work on a PC in my head, I won't touch my husband's laptop, cause it'll explode.
I have two, I can bring them over.
Well, maybe
I
there's.
don't know how to use them.
And an iPad.
Huh?
I don't know how to use them.
We'll get you a copy of the physical one.
Alright, I think we'll put it back on the agenda and we
Yeah.
can have a
Yeah.
conversation and then, you know, we can,
Good idea.
you don't even have to order all of them, we can get 3 or 4 just in case people order first one
Yeah.
Sunday and.
And we can teach Martin how to
I
use
have
this
to
one.
channel Lois here because that there should be an option for a paper copy. It's a cultural competency issue, it just should be. But I agree with you, environmentally, this is horrible, so.
I think you could probably ask people when they onboard what their preference is, and then you would have a record of it, and then when they come and say that they have brought their iPad 6 times, and then they come and say, well, I need paper, we could say, well, thank you. We have it for you, but also you told us we're using your iPad, or vice versa. Like, everybody can be responsible for the way that our preferences are. That can save.
Was that a remark under the covers? They were great.
Alright, I'll put it on the agenda and then we can have a conversation and I think we can always adapt.
And an out in the open conversation.
Yeah, and go from there. So, we wanted to introduce Dobby, who is our brand new, assistant. She's the new admin secretary for, health services. So, she has the lovely task of, not only clerking this board, but the Measure B board and the Public Health Board. In addition to trying to keep up with me and everybody else. So, we're very excited to have her. She's been doing a great job. She's been here, what, 2 weeks? This is your 3rd week, right? Yeah, 3rd, yeah. Starting your 3rd week, and we haven't scared her away yet.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, welcome, Dobby.
Welcome.
Yeah. And you just gotta help her keep all her plates spinning.
So are you you're the recipient of the, VHAB admin emails?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. It's good to put in place.
And it would be
Me.
really nice, the emails that come out, it would be really nice if you had your signature on them or your name. Cause sometimes they come and I'm not sure where they were coming from. And I think coming from Rosanna mostly.
Yeah, most of the time,
Yeah.
she's training right now.
I know, I know. And that wasn't meant just against you. Rosanna's been doing an amazing job doing what she has to do, so. And then,
So next month, she's in charge of bringing us our Christmas bonus
there we go.
in our 2026 calendars for behavioral health.
All right. Yeah, you're gonna have to put up with us too.
More printing.
Okay.
Do you have calendars?
We don't have calendars, but, it's something we looked at doing. There's a couple agencies that, they're wellness centers, they take their clients' arts and turn them into calendars.
They do that with, parents and friends, the, participants who go to Art Explorers, they do a whole thing with that.
But we can add it, we can look at it. It's
For
something-
next year.
Yeah, no, it's something we haven't done, but there is a couple, agencies that do that, and honestly, honestly, if you, some of our client artwork, we have some pretty amazing artists in this community that we work with. I mean, it just blows me away how talented they are.
Yeah, my tribe, we have a monthly calendar of events for the tribe. So everybody knows what's going on. That helps the whole community know what's going on, so they don't have many questions. There's a lot of complaints, but not too many questions.
That's how it works again.
Anything else that we need to add?
I'll just add one last thing, 'cause I forgot. If you haven't done, remember to check out the Good to Know Midco webpage. We're continuously updating that. Mo was working with us on a kind of what's in your community section to really be able to educate on resources within the community like soccer clubs, football clubs, to really as parents struggle with what's available in their community for their youth. So we're continuing to grow that. We're also working with our epidemiologist to put a data dashboard on there that will be public, that you can go in and see Mendocino County, see how we're trending across the state, what we're seeing as where we're doing better than the state, where we're doing not as good as the state. We have high chronic liver disease in Mendocino County. We were blown away when we looked at the stats last week compared to the state average. So that was something we need to get some education out on. But we are going to get that out. It'll have our overdose data within there and a variety of different things. So that page is in development. So hopefully we kind of have it up by January 1st. But the Good to Know Midco site is there, and if you know a resource within the community that would be good for the public to know or families to know on things that are activities that are happening, we're happy to add that to that page. We're trying to create a resource page for families to be able to go and see all the different variety of things available.
I'm just thinking that in appreciation on that committee, if we could do like a 10-year list of who was on this committee in the last 10 years, because this is a whole new board, and some of them don't know who sat here before. You know, they might be surprised who sat here before. So to just appreciate who sat on this committee before they got here.
Can we add that to next month's agenda?
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
We can
Remember, we
discuss
were supposed to get your pictures and put them in the lobbies, but you all have been hesitant about getting your pictures taken. But yes, we can add something about.
I think if we took one picture of the whole group, that would be enough, but individual pictures?
We can do a group picture too.
Do it a portrait of us in the lobby?
Yes, yeah.
Which lobby?
We have 3 lobbies.
He's in the post office, so.
Yeah, Ukiah, Willis, and Fort Bragg. And we were gonna put it on our webpage, remember? We could do a group picture.
Some of these things that
I'll do a
I.
group picture.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
do a
did-
group picture.
We should do a group picture for
Denim Day.
Yeah, we did one for Denim Day, but that wasn't everybody, not everyone.
We did a group picture out at the training center.
Yeah.
That was
last
for
year and the year
Denim Day,
before.
but that didn't have everybody.
Oh.
But the
Yeah, but
point,
you got like 5 minutes.
right, yeah. And the
And
point
we're
was,
gonna have new people again.
exactly. But the point was really to be, a lot of people wanna know who you are, what does the Behavioral Advisory Board do, and you guys don't get the recognition you deserve, so. To make sure you guys get recognized.
Well, thank you for that. But I think what you guys do is heroic. So I personally am pleased that I can help contribute to that. Cause individually we can't, but the fact that we can sit on these boards and committees and contribute is wonderful. Anyhow, do I hear any more from this group? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I know, always can count on Martin. All right.
Okay,
Thank
make
you.
my agenda